Okay, in today's video I'm going to answer Max Wooks' question about studying Chinese in a university in China. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I interviewed a couple of my friends that studied in universities in China and America, and then I've got my words of wisdom on this topic as well. So let's go find a place to talk about it. Alright, here we go. Okay, so first we're going to listen to two interviews that I gave an American friend of mine, Rachel, and a Zambian friend of mine, Joseph, and see what their thoughts are as far as pros and cons of learning Chinese in a university as opposed to learning on a one-to-one basis with a teacher or in a small classroom. They both learned their Chinese in universities in America and in China. I did not. I learned mine the entire time just with a one-to-one tutor. You're gonna get a couple different perspectives there, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's listen to the interviews first, and then we'll go to my pros and cons and basic overview of all the information. So here we go, let's check them out.
So I think there are a lot more pros to learning Chinese in university than cons. It does provide you with an excellent structure and a solid base for if you ever actually do travel to China, which, I mean, even as a person who studied for 4 years in university, it was still difficult to acclimate to the language, so I can't imagine how that would have been if I didn't have that formal training. And learning in a classroom environment in a university, I think, and learning with other learners at the same time, I think actually helps develop your language skills a bit more quickly because you're learning from each other and from each other's mistakes. But that can also be one of the cons, is that if you are dealing with a classroom environment as opposed to just one-on-one in a training school, then you could be learning other people's mistakes and people will teach you incorrectly. And what is most difficult, I think, to learn in a classroom setting is tones and saying things with the correct pronunciation, because if you have a large group like that, it becomes hard to hear the teacher and you're not getting that individual one-on-one attention, which you could potentially get in a training school. But I think that if you're going to university and you have to be studying a foreign language, Chinese is an excellent one to choose, and you're going to have to take the class anyway. So I would definitely recommend doing university training as well.
Well, some of the pros are like you get to meet lots of people. You know, it's there are so many people from different countries. You make great friends, and also the courses are very intense. It's 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. You learn a lot. But I think some of the cons would be like you can't skip any classes. You know, right now, if you do skip a class, the police will come to your house and ask you why you skipped the class. You know, if you want to learn something very specific, you won't get that in a Chinese course or Chinese class. You have to find your own tutor for that.
Okay, so some interesting notes from them. As you can see, both very positive experiences. That's I've got my pros and cons. So my first pro about studying at a university here in China is that it provides a lot of guidance, structure, right? You have to follow a syllabus and it's all laid out there for you. You don't have to put any real thinking into it. Like, they're gonna tell you what you need to study. So that's pro number one. The second pro is that you've got this support team. It's just like going into a gym with a partner, right? Like, you're more motivated to go. Maybe you'll push yourself a little bit further with a spotter, that kind of thing, and you have that with your classmates, right? So that's another big pro. That's a big bonus that a lot of people need. The third pro is that they put an emphasis on reading, which is awesome. If you can read Chinese, that's fantastic. And they do put a heavy emphasis on character learning and reading, which I think is a really good thing. I think that reading is key to any language, you know, increasing vocabulary, it helps with grammar, all that stuff. And the last pro that I wrote down is that it's extremely cheap. Studying at a university in China is really cheap. So you can't beat that. You can't beat the price. As for cons, I think in universities here in China, they put way too much emphasis on handwriting. Now, a lot of people think that handwriting characters is awesome, that's really cool. However, we live in a digital era. Like, if you can read Chinese characters, you're able to type emails out and or text messages, or in China we use WeChat. So I never learned how to write, and I do not regret it for 1 minute, because when you learn how to write, it takes so much time. It's insane. Unbelievable how much time writing takes And also, you have to write, keep it up. If you don't use it, you will lose it with writing Chinese characters. Another one is there's no individual attention. Like when you have a class of 10 or 15 or 20 kids, there's not going to be much one-to-one attention that you could have with a one-to-one tutor or a small class of like 2, 3, or 4 students. And this will really hurt you with tones. Like you won't get that attention needed to really be able to sound like a Chinese person, get those awesome tones in, as tones are extremely important with Chinese language. The third con that I wrote down is that it's going to be a rigid structure. The structure is laid out for you. Yeah, that's a pro. However, you might not want to learn everything that they're going to teach. It might not all be relevant for you. So a rigid structure, that can be a downside. And the last one I wrote down is that while you're studying at university, you're not legal to work and make money in China. So that's why I would say, like, why don't you find a job working in China and then study with a tutor one-to-one, and it doesn't cost too much money either. But that way you can make a lot of money and save money while you're learning. So my overall summary is that if you're in China, I would prefer the one-to-one training. Just find a one-to-one tutor. It's not that much money. It's slightly more expensive, but you can tailor it to your schedule, and you get that one-to-one attention that you really need to be able to sound just like a native speaker. However, you need to be self-motivated to take that path. That's the path I took. I never studied in a university here in China. I was always with a tutor one-to-one, but I was very self-driven. Like if you are not self-driven, you will not keep it up. So one-to-one with a tutor is not for everyone, that's for sure. However, if you do the one-to-one, if you can keep it up, I believe that you're going to be a better speaker than you would be if you were to learn in a classroom setting, and that is the most important thing to me. Speaking is by far the most important part of any language, or at least Chinese language. Reading is really important, but speaking, like, takes the cake. I mean, I know a lot of people that read Chinese but can't speak it very well. It hurts them big time. Like, being able to speak really good Chinese is by far the most important in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. Those are the pros and cons from 2 Americans and a Zambian. Hope you guys found value in that. Max, I hope you found value in this, and I wish you the best of luck in your decision. You can't go wrong with either one, I think, but you know my opinion now, and Rachel and Joseph's. You won't offend me if you don't choose my route, but good luck to you, and good luck to all of you studying Chinese. I hope you guys are enjoying the journey, and if you guys have any questions about learning Chinese, feel free to leave me a comment. Thanks guys, thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one, alright? Peace!